Hey everyone, and welcome to a video that kind of highlights players from more the lower end teams from Serie A as they have the early Coppa Italia fixtures because they're in the earlier rounds. They did not do as well in Serie A last year. You normally find one big club in there that kind of missed Europe and stuff like that. And this year that is AC Milan. But for the most part, we're looking at um, players from bottom table teams, mid-table teams, and stuff like that, trying to find some budget enablers in our squad that as Coppa Italia, as we're going to see here, it's the Italian Domestic Cup, and it's the first kind of competitive fixtures for these teams. And generally, they are starting their players that they are going to be using throughout the season. Not always, and obviously, there's going to be some that aren't chosen in the first game week. There's always surprise and stuff when it comes to starting 11s, but it kind of gives an idea. Even AC Milan this year actually played what seems like their full 11. So I think this is going to give us a pretty good idea. Now, one thing that I don't really see that you kind of see in the other game is there doesn't seem to be that like bottom priced goalkeeper that's going to be starting. We had Suzuki for that last year. The Pisa goalie and Cremonese goalie might be the closest to if you want a second playing goalkeeper. I think they were one of them was at 7.5 or something, and the other one was at 8. Um, but for me, I feel like I'll just have a non-playing goalkeeper this year, but we'll see what's going to happen when I change my squad around. I still need to actually take a proper look at what I actually want to settle on for Saturday. Okay, so first match was the Sassuolo versus Catanzaro game. It was a 1-0 game. And there actually were a couple starters that are lower priced on Sassuolo that you might want for your bench. Andrea Guion, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but he was 5.5 credits. And as a midfielder, a lot of the midfielders are quite expensive, especially for what they are. You have like some players that aren't starting, still in the double digits of credits range, and as well as Filippo Romagna, who was 5.5 as well. And that is while that number normally looks expensive for defenders, this is a very cheap price. Remember, we have 200 credits. So if we divide this by two, we have 2.75 credits at the end of it, or in a 100 credit budget. Also, just being Canadian, like to shout out Ishmael Kone, who did start in the midfield in this game, a new transfer in. When he's at his best, he's a very creative player. He's listed at 9.5 credits in the game, but someone that I'm going to be watching for might not be in my starting squad, though. The next game was Lecce versus Juve Stabia. Lecce took this game 2-0 despite a red card about halfway through the game. Kristovic was the goal scorer on for the penalty. He looks to be good again this year, but he's much more expensive this year at 15 credits. And then if you want another budget midfielder, Theodor Helgason could be a cheap budget enabler as well in the midfield. I do think the midfield is where the options are weakest, which is why like I wanted someone like Kevin De Bruyne on my team because he's one of the more attractive ones, I guess, in the midfield, but I wasn't super impressed because so many of the wingers are listed as forwards. So I think if I'm going to try to save money, I might throw two budget players into my midfield. The third game was Genoa versus L.R. Vincenza. Malinovsky did not play in this match, so that kind of turns me off him, despite him being in my top list for the midfielders. But one player that was playing as like a number 10 Stanchu got into attacking positions in the center attacking midfield role. He scored one of the goals, and 9.5 is somewhat of a cheaper price for a midfielder. So, especially a starting one playing up that high. So, someone that you can consider. Moving on to Como, who took care of Suditro very easily. Now, Anastasios Douvikas, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but he stuck out in this game getting a brace as the number 9 for Como. The only thing is they do have Alvaro Morata now, who I'm assuming you're not picking up him to sit him on the bench, and he will have that role. So whether Douvikas plays in a deeper role, whether they play a front two, or he might end up finding a spot on the bench, but definitely turning the manager's head with a brace in this game. Cagliari went to penalties against Fortuna. Mina kind of looked like an interesting pick for a bit as he was first choice for penalty in this game, not even on the penalty kicks, but he had a penalty in the game, which he missed though. So I wonder if he loses that. Riyad Idrissi is listed as a defender, but a wingback at 6.0, which could be interesting as someone commented looking back on the stats of Kikis that wingers actually can get a lot of points because dribbles are part of the point system. And so if he's a wingback and gets chances to dribble up the wing, if he is attacking and he's a cheap defender, might be worth taking a look at Idrissi if he is a consistent starter. Another newly promoted side in Cremonese, one of the few sides that lost out of the Serie A teams. They lost 5-4 in penalty kicks against Palermo. There was not a whole lot of excitement throughout this game. All the players listed on Kickist in Cremonese are they look too overpriced for what they're going to be able to offer. The two goalkeepers that are kind of on the cheaper side that are starting, Oduro is one of them, listed at 8 credits. If you're wanting a playing goalkeeper, he might be one of the better options, I guess. Parma against Pescara, another cheap budget defender at 6.0 is Lovic. And he was playing more of a wing-back role. And then Pellegrino got a brace for Parma, so he scored both goals against Pescara. He is 10 credits and somewhat cheaper of an attacker, but again, I think I want to go heavy in the attacker positions. Pisa drew 0-0, but won 2-1 in penalties, which was a crazy low penalty score. Must have been poor penalties. Not a whole lot of options I think I'm going to go with. This is where the other backup goalkeeper, I believe, is listed at 7.5. Uh, could be used. Moreo is a cheap attacking player. I think he's listed as a midfielder. Or is he listed as a forward? I kind of forget on that one. But he's 6.0. Cuadrado is on this team, didn't play, but I assume he will. If he is kind of like a talismanic player for this team, might be an option. And he, I think, is listed as a defender. Milan did play a strong attacking lineup. They won 2-0 against Bari. Estupinian did play in this game, picked up a yellow, unfortunately. But they did play a strong lineup, and they had Leao and Pulisic. Normally, we're used to them being wingers. They both played as like two paired attackers in this game. But they do have a lot of new transfers. Hard to predict that starting lineup for AC Milan going into game one. In the Hellas Verona versus Cesena game, Verona won in penalties, and kind of Verona does not show very well in these opening Coppa Italia games, I find. Oyegoke, I don't know how to pronounce that at all. So, but he's cheap defensive option at 6.5. And Giovanni may be a cheap striking option at 6 as well. I think he has some caps, probably like a Brazilian youth team or something like that. But I think he's coming from Corinthians in Brazil. And then Udinese beat Carase 2-0. This is actually a very interesting option here. Matteo Palma started this match at as a 4.0 defender. I think that is a lock in my team. Even if he doesn't end up playing, he can just sit on the bench, it's fine. But if you have some, this would be worth a 2.0 starting defender in previous games in a 100 credit game. So I think that is massive value there if he is starting. And remember, you can sub players out within turn. So if you Udinese has an earlier fixture, you can put him in your lineup. And if he gets a clean sheet, perfect. And if he doesn't, just take him out and put in who you'd normally be starting anyway. Bravo could also be a cheap striker option at 7.5. They have okay starting fixtures. Then we have, is this the last one? Yeah, Torino versus Modena. Not too much was that great for the prices that they are. They don't have Milinkovic-Savic in net anymore, so I don't think their defense is going to be as strong. They might let in more goals than they have the last couple of years. Vlasic was the lone goal scorer in this game as a 12.0 attacking midfielder. And that's kind of what there was to gather. So some cheap options to help maybe move funds elsewhere where they're still going to be in the starting lineup. Um, but otherwise, yeah, I'm looking forward to actually building my team more. I'll try to have a fixtures video out today as well. And then it's the game week 1 where I'm going to reveal my team going into the game. Anyway, take care. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll talk to you again soon.